1984 in the Paris-Dakar, which was an 11,000 kilometer race.
Wow. Now in '84, was this a four-wheel drive or a two-wheel drive?
All-wheel drive. So Jay, you up for a little adventure today?
It's interesting. This is the Porsche Dakar. You know, this is why you have to experience things. You can't do it on Zoom calls. You can't look at pictures. Because this is a car I thought I would not be the least bit interested in, because, I looked at it. It's kind of like a hooker that can cook. It's doing something I don't feel it should do, even though it does it well. You know what I mean? It's like, no, why I think of Porsche as sports cars for one particular purpose, and then you modify it to make it an off-road vehicle. Why don't you just buy a Jeep or buy something, But then I drive this and I realize, if you live in a wintry climate, or you live in Wyoming where there's dirt roads and, everything, you realize, this is it's really pretty cool, because Porsche has taken something. And you see why a 911 is sort of the all-purpose sports car, because it really seems to do everything really well. I like the sure-footedness of it. I like the fact you've got more than normal ground clearance. You have exceptional ground clearance, because you can literally fly over. This is a car meant to have fun between 20 and 120. So many sports cars, you really have to go ridiculously high speeds to get any sense of
what they can do and what their character is.
To get the thrill. Whereas this, boom, 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 going over bumpy roads and, just going 60, but 60 on a bad road is like 150 on a good road. You know what I mean?
Well, let's talk a little bit about why Porsche made this car and what it means. Because you said something really interesting, Jay, about you think of Porsche as the manufacturer of sports cars, and obviously that's what Porsche has been since its founding in 1948. But the interesting thing about this car is the fact that it is built in homage of the 1984 Paris-Dakar winning Porsche 953.
Right.
And people today think of rally cars, and especially either World Rally Championship or the distance rallies like Paris-Dakar or East Africa Safari Rally, as the province of Jeeps and Range Rovers and things like that. But there were sports cars that did these rallies back in the day. Mercedes, quite famously, with the 450 SLC, was a great rally car. And so Porsche wanted to prove what they could do with performance, and they proved it in a big way by taking the overall win in 1984 in the Paris-Dakar, which was an 11,000 kilometer race.
Wow. Now in '84, was this a four-wheel drive or a two-wheel drive?
All-wheel drive.
Even in '84?
In '84, yes. And the interesting thing, too, is the fact that the vehicle which came in second place was a Range Rover V8, and in third place was a Mitsubishi Pajero, which we knew as the Montero. So those were the types of cars you would expect in a Paris-Dakar. But again, it was one of the fundamental tenets of what made the 911 such a successful circuit racing and rally cars, the fact that it was so robust.
Right.
And I think that's one of the things, like, back in the early days of automobiles, manufacturers wanted to prove their cars in competition, and Porsche was no different. They wanted to say, we're not just take it around the circuit and rebuild the engine after one race. This is a car that can actually take the punishment and survive.
But I like that, so many, when you buy supercars and they have the wing on the back and they have the adjustable front spoiler, to get downforce. And downforce you will never probably ever experience. And if you did experience, you wind up going to jail.
Yeah, you'd either go to jail or experience it right before the big accident.
I love the fact that I could go over cinder blocks in this car, and I wouldn't damage it. The whole underneath is sort of protected, right?
It's got a protective aluminum plate in the front, and also aluminum protective sill plates. As an option in the car, you can actually get a full underbody covering. I'm not quite sure whether this car has that or not, but nonetheless, with the adjustable ride heights that you have in all the modes, most notably in off-road setting, this car rides normally about an inch, almost an inch and a half higher than a normal 911 Carrera, but you can raise it up to 3 inches higher than a normal car. And in those modes, in either the standard raised modes or the higher modes, in the highest mode, you can take it up to 95 miles per hour if you're going over sand or gravel, and 105 in the intermediate mode.
Right. Well, that's what I mean. This is where most people live, in that 40 to 100 mile an hour range.
Exactly.
Where you can, all right, you break the law a little bit.
Depending on where you are.
Yeah, the car is more than capable of doing it. And you don't destroy it. If you do hit a beer can, it doesn't split your oil pan in half. I mean, I really like this now. I mean, I could lose the fuel on the roof and all that.
Well, now, of course, to get into the spirit of Paris Dakar, the Porsche Tech Equipment division offers some accessories, like we can see on this car. The roof rack with the LED lights for serious off-roading. It also has jerry cans for water and gas, and I think you're mentioning don't get those mixed up because that could be a bad thing. A foldable shovel in case you get stuck in the sand.
Right.
Some great traction plates, which actually are a very useful thing, frankly, for, as to your point, if you live in the northern climates and you drive through snow, traction plates to have in your car are actually a very good idea.
Well, this would remind me of the old Volkswagen ad. You ever wonder how the man with the snowplow gets to
there?
The
yes.
snowplow? Because this would be the perfect example. This is truly a year-round Porsche. I mean, you can do things with this you could never do with a Lamborghini or even a Ferrari. I came into this a bit like, oh boy,
Slightly skeptical.
I did. I was skeptical, but I love the way it handles. It has all the Porsche-ness that it should have, but with the ability to do it in any sort of terrain, which is actually the most practical sort of Porsche you could get, I think. I really do like this. It's not available with a manual transmission, though, is it?
It is not, no. It is a Porsche Carrera 4S, so it's just the PDK. And again, especially for off-roading or for winter driving, it would be nice to have the ultimate control of manual gearbox, but you can obviously select your gears manually with the PDK. And actually, let me take a step back, because I just fell into the trap that a lot of people fall into, and I do this, which is the PDK is a manual transmission. It's simply electronically controlled. It's not an automatic transmission. But you do have that instantaneous gear change that you or I could never get using the clutch and a manual gear stick. But
I don't know if it's fair to call it a manual gearbox.
It is. It is literally a manual gearbox.
But if you
the clutch is controlled electronically.
If you said to somebody and then they bought it thinking it was, I think they would sue you.
It's not a shift yourself manual gearbox.
Right.
It is a shift for you.
Well, yeah. All right. I'm not sure I call it manual gearbox, but it's
what
you're saying. It's a very good.
You're very much into the engineering side, and an automatic gearbox involves fluid coupling. A manual gearbox does not. This has got a manual gearbox.
Right.
So by the strict pedantic rules, not that I'm ever pedantic.
Right.
But the other thing is that this car, of course, also has one of the options available on it, which is the rally livery, which recalls exactly the livery that the car ran in 1984.
You wonder how many school runs in Beverly Hills people are going to make with the fuel and the gas on the roof.
Well, no, I'm just talking about the stripes and the coloring.
Yeah.
It just reminds us of that iconic thing. And, it also reminds us of the age, not that this is something that we should be nostalgic about, but it's a reminder of the fact that major sponsors in motorsport for such a long time, the first ones in such a long time, were tobacco companies.
Right.
And so it was something that people were very used to seeing. And now, of course, Martini is not a tobacco company, it's an alcohol company, but you see certain colors and then just immediately...
John Player Norton.
John Player Special, yeah, it was just absolutely amazing.
Black and gold.
The black and gold, the famous Martini blue and red stripes on the white. They're just so incredibly evocative, and they just put you in the mindset of where the car should be.
Well, the thing that I like about this is it is firm, probably firmer than a regular Porsche. But not, you know, what I hate is firm with rattles. You know, where you go bang, and you hear things, and you go, and it doesn't denote quality. You know, the one very clever thing that Rolls-Royce does that nobody else does, they spend all this time on the tactical. You turn the fan switch in here. It's like winding a mechanical watch, like a really expensive mechanical. You hear each click, you know.
Exactly.
And
precisely made.
That's what this feels like. It feels like precision made. And the fact that it is firm, but I don't feel like I'm getting kidney punch.
That's actually a very, and I can't wait. In a couple minutes, I'll get behind the wheel if you will allow me.
No, I'm sorry.
But one of the things that I have found in this current iteration of the Carrera 4S is that it tends to be, for me, a little too stiff in the sport mode for most street driving. This, however, I think, due to these tires and the ground clearance and this suspension, it feels much more comfortable, frankly, in this car than in a standard Carrera 4S.
You know, with the terrible roads you have in California now, literally, you know, I've got my Oldsmobile Tornado, that, you know, the one you modified. Mm-hmm. Okay, twice I've hit a pothole and bam, just blew a tire, and those are 17-inch, and those are big tires. It's not like they're really low.
Skin.
Yeah, they're not low profile, and boom, just popped it off. Whereas this is perfect for California roads, because you almost, I feel like I can't break it. I mean, I'm sure I could, but I feel like I can't, because it almost seems like the most practical Porsche you could buy, because you could use it for really any situation. You know, you have a flood, you just bring the thing all the way up to 3 inches. Well, I have to say, I'm very impressed. How, are they building a limited number of these?
Yes, they're only building 2,500 of them, and which, again, you know, I would not be surprised, frankly, to see some of the features of this car appear on another model of the 911.
Are they all this color?
No, you can get it in a wide variety of colors, including the, I guess they call 300 colors available in special order program. But no, it comes in a variety of colors. I think about 6 colors standard that you can choose from, plus various liveries. You can choose this livery, which is the 1984 Dakar, as well as liveries which celebrate the East Africa Safari Rally in, I think, 70, 71, 73.
I just love that you can beat the crap out of it without, I mean, how many times those of us have, you know, I've got a Carrera GT, and when you crack that splitter, down, it's like crazy. I mean, every nick or chip is a huge, whereas this thing, you can just bang it and throw it around. I mean, I really love that about it. It seems like an all-purpose sports car that you can drive on really bad roads, because most road racing surfaces don't resemble real roads in any sense.
Not at all.
Like my P1 McLaren, when you put it in, you're literally a millimeter off the ground, which will just tear the whole car up.
Yeah, this car you don't have to worry about approaching driveways.
No, I applaud this thing. I really like it. I love the fact that I've been given a chance to drive it, and even though we didn't drive it hard or beat the crap out of it, I really felt that I could if I wanted to. And it's really wonderful. I really like it. I love the practicality of it. I think it's just amazing. Donald, you want to experience it?
Absolutely.
Let's try it.
All right, Jay. Now that we're going to do some serious driving, I've turned on the LED lights so that we can pick our way through this very demanding gravel stage here next to the beach in Rhode Island, and we need to make sure that we pick up another 14 seconds in this stage. Otherwise, we're finished. This is a fun car. It really is.
It really is. You know, people always buy what they think they want and not what they want. And this is probably what most people really should have, especially if you live in a rural area or you really like to have fun with your car.
This would be a great everyday New Hampshire, Vermont car, you know?
I know, you get any kind of weather. You're not obsessed with in weight saving. You know, it's so funny. Americans are only concerned in weight saving when it comes to their automobiles. You know, I always tell most guys, you know, if you just skipped a couple of lunches, you wouldn't need the carbon fiber package. You know, you would save 25 pounds.
Yeah, but this carbon fiber package brought to you by Dairy Queen and Burger King.
Well, yeah, I love the fact, like you said, this has electric, has all the creature comforts that you really would want, but you feel guilty about because, oh, you want to keep the weight. It doesn't matter here, because the thing here is not weight saving, it's durability and strength.
Exactly.
And that's what I love about it. It feels like a solid billet automobile. It really is impressive.
And when you think about what's on the accessories list, it's sort of unusual to have a performance car, and on the accessories list are mud flaps.
Right. That's funny.
But that tells you all you need to know about what Porsche intended. Yeah, I have to confess that as painful as it is to me, I agree with you about the expectation. When I first heard that one of these is going to come into the collection, I thought, well, okay, it's sort of neat. I love historic cars, but I also have to hand it to Porsche for not just making a sort of a cynical marketing special with a paint job and a badge and nothing else.
These did it with American cars. You'd have some sort of cartoon character, road runner or something like that. And it had drum brakes. It really, and racing stripes. I like the fact that they make it the real deal.
Or the Indy 500 version of something.
Right.
That's got the Speedway logo on it and nothing else. Just the suspension capacity of this car, as you pointed out, is just so different than what you'd expect from a performance sports car, and I think it's a really neat thing that they've done.
It's kind of like what Aston Martin does. I think of them as luxury GTs because they're really comfortable. They're for grown-ups. You can. Your wife's not going, oh, my hair, all that kind of stuff like you get in a lot of cars, I mean, it's just great. It reminds me of, I've got an SLR.
Yes.
And the reason I and that took a lot of criticism when it came out, but it runs really fast. It's got normal ground clearance. I've never scraped a splitter or anything on it because it has all the features of a normal car with a lot of power and a lot of handling. So it's impressive.
It also makes that wonderful noise under your feet, which I love.
Oh, yeah. I wonder why Porsche limits themselves to 2,500. I mean, why not sell as many as you could?
Well, again, I think the Porsche folks are absolute masters at marketing.
That's true.
And profitability. And again, that's why I say that I would not be surprised to see some of the features on this car come back in some way on perhaps another special edition of some sort.
Right.
Because what this car does and has is too good just to limit to 2,500 nostalgia specials. There's more here than that. So it'll be interesting to see what it is that they end up doing.
But everybody gets all these sport packages thinking that, it really comes down to the driver. I remember years ago at the Rock Store, a popular motorcycle hangout, a guy, one of the famous flat track racers of the day, came up on a totally stock Harley Davidson 883, 83 cc's, a little Sportster, and going through what they call the snake, and he's literally hitting the handlebars on the tarmac, getting it all the way over, and he's beating all the guys with the full race leathers, and and the Kawasaki's and the Suzuki race bikes, because he was a racer, and you realize that's really what comes down to. So you might as well get something that fits your needs. Yeah, really, and it just feels so solid. You're not getting wind buffeting or any of this kind of nonsense.
Not at all. This is I have to say extraordinary, and up till this moment, this is revelatory now. Everyone take out their pens and make a note in their diaries. Up until this moment, I would have to have said that my favorite modern 911 is the 911R.
Right.
Which I absolutely love. It's a car that does everything beautifully, has a feeling of lightness, has a feeling of real responsiveness. This car is as enjoyable to drive as that in a totally different way.
Right, right.
But it really, really, really has something that, wow.
Yeah, it is. It's funny. I think we agree on that. It's because I thought, oh, what's this going to be? Another, tape and stripe special?
Exactly.
Not at all. Just fantastic, and a classic example of what you should have versus what you think you should have.
Yes.
Okay.
And another example as well for me of check your expectations and your judgment at the door.
Right, right.
Get behind the wheel and see what it's like before you decide what it's like.
I agree.
I've never ever done well with that, and I think that it's always a good idea to keep an open mind.
I bet they could sell 5,000 of these.
Easily. Now these are not inexpensive.
Right.
They do sell at a premium over the other Carrera 4S's.
Right.
But I have to say again that it's deservedly so because of what the car has, and much like the GT 2s and the GT3s, I always prefer the touring version. I'm not a big wing fan.
Right.
And this is a car that, as wonderfully evocative as it is in the retro livery, I would get in one of those nice, wonderful, soft metallic colors that Porsche has.
Right.
And just sort of be that sort of Q-ship thing, I could keep up with the guy in the Jeep,
right.
and he'd be, what?
Yeah.
What is that guy doing? He's got a Porsche.
The nice thing is you can use most of this where you spend most of your time driving.
Exactly.
That's what enjoy. Most Porsches, you buy the high performance models, the turbos and whatnot, and you've got to be going, illegal speeds. Whereas this, can't say enough about how good it is.
This is a dream.
Yeah, wonderful.
Thanks for sharing this with me, Jay.
Yeah, thank you.